Today on this James the Bike Guy, we're doing a little at-home project. It's raining outside, it's in the middle of quarantine, and I think it's time to finally make my Specialized Alibi a little bit nicer bike. So I've had this for a couple of years. I've got a matching set for my fiance and I. These bikes, I mean, they must have, 500 miles on them or so. I mean, they've had a lot of riding done. We take these out to the Cape on bike paths, things like that. And one thing that we've always wished was just a little bit better about this bike was the freewheel on the back. So this is set up with a 7-speed freewheel. And the challenge with that freewheel is that the 7 speeds actually ends up having something they call mega range. So that means you've got pretty smooth progression up the gears, and then boom, this big old gear, this mega range. Now, Shimano does that because to make a 7-speed freewheel is going to help keep the cost of a bike down, and they figure, it's going to be easy enough to get the full range by going 14 to 34. And it works, but if you ride anything that doesn't have mega range, you'll very quickly notice that jump between the second to the first cog is just so large that it really makes the bike challenging to use. So we're going to upgrade this to 9-speed so her and I's bikes can be in better shape. But there's a challenge with upgrading a freewheel, and it actually comes down to parts availability. So a freewheel like this, the challenge here is most of the time they're designed just for a 7-speed. Going to 9-speed means that it's going to be a little bit of a challenge because Shimano doesn't make a 9-speed freewheel. And to illustrate this more, I should explain the difference between a freewheel and a cassette. So right here we've got a cassette which has what's called a free hub body, which this is the spot where the ratcheting mechanism is in the wheel. So when you pedal forward, it has those clicks to it, right? Now, these range everything from, I think they used to have 5-speed, but obviously they go up to 12-speed now. And your cassette is a fixed piece that actually slides right on to the free hub body. The neat thing with that, these come in all different sizes, so you can swap them out for whatever you need. Now, in a freewheel, it's not quite the same. So we've got this here, and you can see that it's actually threaded. And that's because your freewheel slides on, threads forward, and that's what gets the ratchet mechanism. The freewheel is actually the ratcheting part, not the wheel. Now the other major difference is going to be bearing placement. So the reason they don't make better quality freewheel mechanisms is because you can see you've got a bearing on the outside of the hub, a bearing sort of in the middle here, but nothing all the way out where the wheel attaches. And so that puts a huge amount of load on the axle. Of course, lots of load on an axle means it's an opportunity for failure. So on better quality bikes where they use a freewheel mechanism, you've got a bearing on the outside, bearing in the middle, and then inside of the free hub body, you've got a bearing out towards the end. That means a cassette's going to carry a lot better load. And that's part of the reason they don't make larger or wider freewheels. So to be able to get this done, we've got to do something a little bit interesting. So I've got a DNP freewheel here. This is a 9-speed freewheel. And what makes it unique is the 9-speed freewheel fits onto a standard freewheel wheel and basically just adds a couple of gears. Now, the only size that I could find that would work properly for the bike, so this goes 11 to 32, whereas the stock was 14 to 34. I think the 32 is going to be fine. She and I very rarely feel like we need more gearing, but it definitely has a faster gear. That 11 tooth is going to make a big difference compared to the 14. So if we end up deciding we need more gear, you can always just downsize the chainring. But now that we've gone way too deep into why upgrading a Freewheel is a bit of a pain, and I probably should have just bought a bike with a cassette. Let's go ahead and start the install here. The install here is not going to be too bad. I've chosen to go with the Shimano Alivio 9-speed derailleur, a matching Alivio rear shifter, a SRAM PC 971 chain, mostly because this chain has a power link. Could have used a Shimano. And then that DNP 11 to 32 freewheel. So it's going to thread on just like the other one and basically take the place. Now the nice thing with this is it's going to be a pretty easy install. You just need some of your standard tools like a 3-way Allen wrench, and the only specialty part you're going to need is actually going to be a freewheel tool. So this freewheel tool here is going to slide right in and allow you to take the freewheel on and off. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started working on the bike. So in this particular case, because it's going to be a pretty straightforward setup, the only things I'm going to start off with doing is just pulling the rear wheel off. This is going to allow me to get the wheel out of the way. We'll of course change the freewheel here in a bit. So we'll put that aside. And then now we just cut our cables here. For that, I'm going to use a set of my Pedro's cable cutters. We can pop that right off. I'm going to reuse the housing, although in many cases it would be better not to, but it's going to allow me to run a new cable pretty dang easy. So that comes out, and because this bike is full-length cable pulling on, I'm not going to have to deal with the internal cable routing on the bike, which can be a little bit of a pain. Now the next thing I want to do is go ahead and move this around, and we're just going to find where the master link is. So this bike comes stock with a KMC chain, so we've got a master link right about here. So we'll grab out of my my toolbox master link pliers. Boom, just like that. And now the chain's going to come off. So now you could keep this chain for another project into the future if you wanted to. I don't know if I'll need that, but I'll put it aside. And now it's just going to be a matter of taking our derailleurs off. So we'll now go ahead and take our old derailleur off. Unscrew this guy. Off that comes. That was pretty snug there. And then we'll grab some grease here. Put just a touch of grease right onto our new derailleur, so that way it doesn't get quite as crunched up. Okay, and we can now thread our new derailleur right onto the derailleur hanger. We've got our new derailleur hanger on. Now we do have to shorten the shift cable here, or shift housing I should say. And what I'm looking for is just a reasonably smooth bend. So I'll take cable cutters, cut that. And so you're looking to get your cut as flat as you can. You can also use a file to smooth it out. I'm not worried because I'm using these metal end caps, which do a good job of containing the cable. Just shift this down just a touch, and there we are. We're in good shape. Now we got to draw our attention to taking the handlebar apart here. So this is going to be reasonably easy. Just going to be a matter of undoing 5 mils for the shifter and the brake lever. So if you twist the handlebar out of the way here, you can see our brake lever will pop off, and the shifter comes off too. Nice and easy. So we'll put that shifter aside. Now it's time to take apart the new Shimano SLX shifter. So the neat thing with these shifters is that this is going to come both with a pretty nice gear indicator, but it also comes with a shift cable. So straight with the cable, put that aside, slide the shifter on, slide the brake on, and then our grip gets to return right onto there again. So we're not going to tighten everything down in the exact spot that they're supposed to be in, but the reason we're going to snug this stuff up is it's going to allow me to be able to use the shifter and make sure that everything's working. Once the bike's back on the ground, we'll go back through, make sure we get the grip and the brake levers lined up. So don't worry about that, just on there snug. And thread the shift cable right back in. So the neat thing here is we'll see it in a moment. It's going to come out. So the shift cable's been run. It's now out towards the rear derailleur. It's time to focus on taking care of our freewheel. You're just going to take your skewer out, get that out of the way. Now we're going to need our freewheel removing tool, and this is going to be time for a nice large set of pipe wrench or pliers here. There we go. Boom. Now these can be really tight at times, so you can definitely do this by using a vise. You would just attach your freewheel tool right into the vise, but off our freewheel comes. Nice and easy. We'll put that off to the side. Now it's time to put the new freewheel on. With any of this, quick dab of grease, because we want to make removal easy in the future if you can. It also makes sure that you don't have a huge amount of corrosion, and this is going to be where we'll clean up the threads. Take our new freewheel, slide it right on, and just pedal forward. Now, I'll snug this up, but the neat thing about a freewheel is this is self-tightening. So this is going to tighten up just when you pedal, so you don't have to worry about how snug you get it, because it's always going to get tighter than what you can do by hand once you're actually on the bike and riding. So from here, you can just slide your skewer right back onto the bike or onto the axle, snug that puppy up, and let's get it reinstalled. The wheel is just going to slide right back up into the dropout, right into the dropouts, and lock it right into place. So now we're good to go to the next part. Let's just go ahead, reconnect our brake, just like that. It's now going to be time for us to go ahead and put our new chain on. So we've got the chain. Go ahead and I'll just cut this open. And at this point, we'll put our two master links aside. We can run this through. So what I'm looking for at this point is I want in big for us to be able to have 2 extra links. So we've got 1, we've got 2, so I'm going to cut it right here. To do that, we'll just take our handy chain tool. We're just going to push this pin right on through. There we go. So off that goes. Now it's going to be as simple running this through our derailleur. Great. With that run through the derailleur, we can now take our master link. Take our master link here. And it's important when we do this, we get the links all set up. So we want to check the high limit. So you see how it allowed the chain to fall right off? Well, we'll put that back into place. Let the derailleur get back up there. I always find it's a good idea to press on the derailleur to see if you can make that happen. You see how it's just starting to ride off? So what that means is we need a little bit more low limit. Okay, you want enough that it can overshift, but not where it can ride the chain off. So that's pretty good there. And we'll keep going down. And as we get into So now that we've got that limit, let's just jump down to the lower limits here. And so for our last limit, I'm going to pull this, we're going to pull it towards, and you see how it's not jumping off? That's a good sign that everything seems to be adjusted. And it's a little jumpy between the gears, but overall it's not too bad. So let's go on to the next step here. Is we're going to want to go ahead and cut these cables. We're going to just clip that right about there. Now we'll take our crimp, slide that guy right on, and if you ever look at your bike, I bet you that they've got different initials or different crimps based on the person who worked on it. So I've got a special crimp that I like to put on my bikes. That way it looks a little bit more pro. But there we are. Drivetrain's installed. Routing's good. I like the look of it. Now we just have to finish up the cockpit. So to do that, bring the bike right out of its stand. So now we're just going to want to go ahead and start lining up the shifters, or the shifter, and the brake lever to be where we want. Loosen that up. So on the other side, right here, we can see that it's just a little bit less than a thumb. It's pretty much an index finger worth of room between the brake lever and the grip. So we'll get the grip all snugged up there. And I'm just going to check rotation with the other brake lever. Toss it into the hand here. Make sure it feels right. In this case, definitely needs to go down. Perfect. So that feels good. So we'll take three-way here, snug that puppy up. Now we got to get our shifter pushed into place. That's pretty easy because that's just going to go right there. So alas, that's a look at how to upgrade your 7-speed freewheel to be a 9-speed freewheel. Can't wait to get this out on the rail trail, get it done to my fiance's bike as well, see what she thinks of this upgrade, because it didn't cost too much. The shifting is not perfect. I'll bring it by my local bike shop. They might be able to fine-tune just a little bit better than I did. So thanks for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. While you're at it, let me know if you want to see more videos like this. It's a new format for me for sure. Can't wait to know what your thoughts are. But again, thanks so much for watching, and can't wait to see you in the next James the Bike Guy video.